questions to ask throughout a campaign with the confidence rising. I told WDF don't switch, good times are coming on even deep diving. Fan cams, reactions, watch alongs to the pride of London thriving. The Eagles of South, they flying. Keep your eyes on us, we ain't hiding.
Yes, guys, it is Wednesday. It is 7:30, and we are back. We are back with another TACT-EAGLE for you guys. And in this episode today, we are going to talk about a tactic against Man City, aka don't let Haaland score, aka play the game and pray that you don't concede that many goals, aka don't mess up the goal difference too much. But I'm here with Dan. Dan, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good. Well, I was all good, and then I remembered I'm a Crystal Palace fan. But until then, yeah, I was having quite a nice day actually.
Cool.
How you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm happily having my annual leave, so I've had a week off.
Nice.
It's going way too fast. It really is. It's already Wednesday.
It's always away, man. It's always away.
Yeah. When you're working, weeks take ages, but when you're off, it flies by.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But we're not here to talk about me. Let's talk about the team that we blindly follow, no matter how bad they play. Yeah, let's get into it. So we'll go through our predicted of what our lineups would be if we were the managers of the team. So here's what I would go with. And this is me if I was a manager in a perfect world.
In a perfect world.
So, as we can see, on the left is Crystal Palace. I'll go in goal with Gaeta, with Gay and Anderson centre backs. I go I'll go Mitchell and Richards at fullback. In the middle, I go Hughes in the DM position, with MacArthur a little bit more advanced in the 8 position, along with a Hamada. Out wide, you go Zaha and Elise, and up top, you got Odsonne Edouard. Probably some rogue shouts in here. Obviously, Decore's can't play because of his second yellow and his sending off against Villa on Saturday. I'd highly doubt that Macca's even match fit. Probably play Schlupp instead, but I'll show you what I think that Vieira will play later on in the show. But Dan, have we got any comments on this lineup? I think that starting Richards is probably the best thing to do, just depending on how Man City play, really.
Yeah, I mean mine. I'll just quickly show my one. Let's get it. Right. So I thought there was a couple of things that I potentially could see. Very similar. I mean, I've got Kleiny in there, but that's just more of a habit, I guess. The only other one I'd change really was Lokonga, just because I thought he'd be more match fit than Jimmy. Although if Jimmy was there, I'd be happy with that. The only other thing, okay, this is a bit of a rogue shout. I haven't told JC this yet, but it's a bit of a rogue shout. I wouldn't mind seeing something like this. I actually wouldn't mind playing a 3 at the back for this game, and there's a reason for it that I'll tell later. But I actually wouldn't mind playing a 5 at the back today on Saturday with a midfield 3 like this. I think if he were to play this kind of midfield, I think I would change Lokonga for Jimmy, just because I think if you play this kind of thing, you would need a bit more experience. And I've still got one extra player on the pitch, so who do I sacrifice? Who will I sacrifice? I think Elise will be sacrificed for Eddie and Zaha. One, because I think you need that focal point up front, and they'll make different stuff. And I think Zaha's better than Elise. So that was the other alternative that I thought for Palace.
Yeah. There are, even though in last week's episode we did try and dwell on more of how we will win, I think this will be another episode of how we will not lose. But a way of doing that is we have to look at City's lineup. So I was looking at their last few games, who started for them, who's not been starting for them. Dan has just told me recently, or just before we started, that Foden might be injured. He might not be playing, which would be a big plus because he's very in form right now. I think he scored 2 and 2, right?
Yeah, well, he scored it. He definitely scored against Bournemouth. I can't remember if he scored against Newcastle.
So this is what I believe that they'll play. I think they'll play pretty much the same lineup that they did against Newcastle. The only difference between this lineup is that they played Bernardo Silva instead of Gundogan. But I'll run this team through with you guys. I will go Ederson with Ake at left back, Diaz at centre back, Akanji at centre back, Walker at right back, with Rodri and Gundogan in the defensive midfield position, with De Bruyne in the attacking midfield, Foden right. It'll probably be Mahrez if he's injured, or Cole Palmer or someone like that. Grealish on the left and Haaland up front. That's how the team would look like on paper, but that is not how Man City play whatsoever.
Definitely. And I thought as well, I mean, mine was basically the same. Yeah, mine was basically the same. One thing I think that is possible, so I've got Mahrez there just for that, but actually having thought about it since JC just mentioned Silva, I think Silva will play there probably instead. One thing I have seen them do, and it depends on the team they play, I think I have seen them play a 3 at the back when they play a side who isn't as good in attack. So us, basically. And what they do is they actually move to a 3 at the back. So they'll have sort of 3 centre-backs. And are you thinking, well, why would City play 3 at the back with wing-backs? Well, they don't really play with wing-backs. Their wing-backs will be Silva and Grealish, with Gundogan will probably shift forward next to De Bruyne. So you've basically got like a 4 along here. So it's basically like a 3-2-4-1. And then instead here, they'll have another midfielder. So I've seen Rico Lewis play there. He played there against Bournemouth. That's the only other possibility I saw that City might play against us. Because like I said, we're not very good at attacking.
I think that can be said, especially with the fact that we both want Edouard to start, but I think we know pretty much for certain that Mateta will, because of Vieira's slightly out of pocket interview that he done after the Villa game. But we won't dwell on that. I think we talked about that enough on our review, or as some people that have watched it would like to call it our rant, our hour and a half long rant. But it is what it is. Let's hit some comments first. Big up Brush. Big up Rich. Tactic for City, defend and pray. Chairman's out here saying play 11 goalkeepers. It's probably not too bad of an idea, is it? I go Klein and Richards. Is that saying Klein going left back?
Oh, I mean, considering how poorly Mitchell's played, I wouldn't be against that. Yeah. I think. Well, Richard said he would play a 5 at the back in the comment after, so maybe he means that. Yeah,
I think. Then again, though, I think if you want to play a 5 at the back, we've only got 3 centre backs, and one of those includes Richard. So you've got to play Klein at right back.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I don't think I'd fancy playing Riedewald at left back.
Nah, not well. I mean, can he be any worse than Mitchell's been recently? I mean, I still wouldn't. I still play Mitchell. But...
Yeah, I still wouldn't. But honestly, Gyro couldn't do much worse than what Mitchell's been doing lately. Let's be real.
No.
Let's see how Man City are going to kill us. So you said that you think that they'll go into like a 3-2-4-1.
Possibly, yeah.
I tend to differ. I think it'll be a 2-3-5, which is what they have been doing lately. One sec, my screen's frozen. All right, we're back. Yeah, 2-3-5. So let's get into it. It is mad. It's like a reverse Christmas tree, pretty much. So obviously, how they play, Edison stands up with Akanji and Diaz. Something weird that I've seen them do is that the fullbacks will come into the midfield, so you'll make a 3 in midfield. And what they do is they've given Rodri's been so good lately that they've given him so much responsibility in that midfield. What I mean by that is Rodri pretty much, where's my circle? Pretty much this whole space in the circle is pretty much just covered by Rodri because he's been given, I wouldn't say free role in this team, but he has to marshal this whole midfield. And with Walker coming from here, going into the midfield, same thing with Ake. There's a lot of versatility that can be used here. For example, if we're pressing and the ball's coming out to Akanji, Walker will drop out, and obviously probably Zaha will come and follow him out there. Let me get rid of the circle. But the thing is, because they have 5 at the front, Gundogan will drop back a little bit. And then this is where we sort of see that 3-3-4 that Dan is talking about. But whatever they do, they've got an answer for it, pretty much. Let me move these guys back here. Oh,
he's doing a dance.
Yeah, I wish he did a dance. When we've seen us play against Man City, these guys, Walker and Zaha, they always have a good battle. However, they've both lost their pace. I would say that Zaha's lost more pace than Walker. So right now, if we played this game, I reckon that Walker will pocket Zaha. If he just sits there and man marks Zaha, I reckon Zaha's out of this game. So the main port of contact is going to be Elise here. And unfortunately, we know that Vieira is going to play him in the 10. And if he's playing in the 10 against Rodri, we've got no chance. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, I agree.
This is sort of the team that I think that PV will play with Mitchell, Gay, Anderson, Klein, Sambi, Schlupp, Elise, Ayew out wide, Zaha out wide, and Mateta up top. We know Mateta can't do the pressing thing because his bald head will start steaming and he'll overheat. So he'll only run for about 60 minutes. But with how City play and with how they've got Gundogan and De Bruyne, I think that is the main part that we need to be scared of, because Dan has taught me this phrase and I'm going to use it. City love to exploit the half space.
Oh, yeah.
And do you know how they do this? With some vertical passes.
Yeah.
Basically, what I mean by this is how you can see how we're set up. So you got a bank of 4 here. Oh wait, let me get the squares, the squares or the rectangles. So you got bank of 4 there. Move that over a bit. You got these 2 here. Oh gosh, this they need to have just a
square. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's really weird like that.
We don't need to do the striker one because we all know Mateta's going to be in no man's land anyway.
Might as well just play with 10 men.
Yeah. So if you can see, this is how. There we go. So you could. It's a bit crude, but you can see where the lines are, and where all their goals come from, where all their playmaking comes from, is Gundogan and De Bruyne. And as you can see, they're in the middle of our banks of 2 and 3. This means they're in the half space, and it's sort of that space where if you're on a team you look at each other going, who's picking up this guy? Because he's sort of half in my space and half in your space. So this is where we're going to have to be really switched on, and we're going to have to delegate. Yo, Sambi, you got to man mark De Bruyne. Schlupp, you got to come out to Gundogan. You don't get sidetracked by Haaland. We'll deal with that later. But you have to be careful of these two guys here, because from here they can be very versatile. They can come short, give people another option in midfield, or what they love to do is press up. This does mean that there isn't any route into the striker or into the forward line when going from the midfield here. They have to go out wide first. But if they go out wide, they've got that triangle. They go out wide, De Bruyne will support, and Ake will support as well. If it was on the other side, let me move this back. If it's on the other side and Foden's got the ball, obviously Mitchell will go out there. Gundogan will come here with support, but Walker will do the overlap, even though he's meant to be sitting in midfield. So, particularly on our left side, even and as well with Mitchell not playing to the best of his abilities this season, is going to be very long, because he's going to have to deal with. It's going to be an overload on that side no matter what. Even if Schlupp and Zaha go over there, it's still man for man. And if that happens, let me get rid of these squares. They're annoying me now. Yeah, so if this happens and we're all man for man, there have been cases of Haaland dropping deep, picking up the ball and spreading the play. Even though he's not the best at passing, I think that they know if Haaland drops deep, De Bruyne basically slots in up front, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever we do, however we counter them, try and stop them, they will be the first ones to flip the formation, change the tempo of the game, and change it in a fast way to hurt us very quickly. It is not it's not fun talking about how a team will just absolutely rip us apart, but unfortunately that's all we can really go off here. But I do think that there is a way round this, and a way that we can score some goals. So if you go back and you look at the last few years that we've been playing against Man City, we have tended to score a few goals against them. Some of those goals come from corners, which we have scored a few. I think Anderson scored one early in the season, and a few years ago Tucson scored one. So their defensive record against set pieces isn't the best. On an average, in this whole season, Man City's defense hasn't been as good as it normally is, because they have conceded exactly one goal per game.
This is true.
And only having 9 clean sheets. Normally at this point in the season, they'd have 14, 15.
That is true. According to my spreadsheet, they've actually conceded 7 more goals than in the like-for-like games this season.
Definitely. And also, with some stats that I've been looking at, so I'm on the stats today a little bit.
Nice.
Ederson's making a lot more saves than he normally does. 1.4 saves per 90 averages out at, which means that they're giving up the ball in more dangerous places this year. I'm not sure whether that is because they're trying to play the fullbacks in the midfield and they're not used to having the ball, because it has been the case of if you press a fullback and they're trying to play in possession, they're not used to carrying the ball, coming left, coming right, like a midfielder. They're a wing back last season, and coming from a wing back into a midfielder is a much different role. So they've been caught out a lot. So into where I fit into the only way that I think we can actually come out of this game. So I haven't got a in possession different sheet, because we're not going to be in possession for very long. Let's be real.
What do you reckon? 10%?
I'm going to go with 31%.
31?
I think
Wow.
31. Do you know why 31? Because I reckon we'll be passing around the backline so damn much that we'll be scared to do anything else. But pressing, high risk, high reward. Because let's be real, if Zaha presses Akanji and Mateta presses Akanji, and we can formulate our defense to push up like this, unless he whips out a beautiful ball up to Foden or up to Haaland, then we've got a high possibility that we can nick the ball. It has happened to them many times this season, and that's pretty much one of the only ways, apart from set pieces and wonder goals, that Man City have conceded. They've held the ball for too long, and the other team has capitalised greatly because of how they love to play a high line and they only play two at the back when they're in possession. So if we can hit them quick, Zaha, Mateta, gone. And also, Ederson loves to stand off his line a lot. So if we can nick the ball from here, if Zaha can get a few touches in front, Ederson's going to be sprinting back. He's probably not even going to be in the box by the time Zaha is already halfway through their half. So that long range shot over the goalkeeper is on. And I haven't seen many teams capitalise from that. Also, something very similar to what I said against Man City, against Liverpool. It's also very risky, but it can work. Because the midfield, the fullback's going into midfield, if Zaha can stand, or Ayew can stand on the other side of the defender, they've got loads of space. So if Zaha gets the ball, if we pass the ball to Zaha, he's got this space. Also, same thing with Ayew. But that's only if we can stand off the defenders. But I don't think we'll be doing this, purely because if we stand off, they'll push up, and then it'll be an extremely bad overload in our defending third.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I know I said that they might play with three at the back, but I know Pep doesn't like playing us. I don't know why, but I know Pep for some reason seems to overthink things when he plays us. So I think he would go to four at the back like he did against Newcastle.
Mm-hmm. I reckon it's because we've got dribblers, and not many teams in the Premier League have as many dribblers as we do. That's sort of one of our greatest strengths, but we don't actually utilise it too much. Mm-hmm. It seems to be the only times we utilise it is against big teams, really. Mm-hmm. We never do it against the smaller teams.
Well, interesting. So I was looking through the stats earlier, and I think Palace have got the third most completed dribbles in the league this year, or something like that, which I find quite mad considering we rarely get the ball. But a part of me also thinks that's because our wings are so isolated sometimes that they don't really have a choice. So, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like a lot of teams will just pass it rather than try to dribble. So I wonder if that's it. There was a way, I do think, in terms of City attacking, I thought that was exactly what I thought in terms of what they do. In terms of what I thought we could do, but first I'm going to tell you the stats. I'm going to bring us right down first. And then when I talk about how we could beat them, I'll bring us back up.
You're going to make me... Dan, so, we already cried after Villa. We don't want to cry anymore.
Okay, I'm going to read out some of City's stats in terms of where they rank this year. So, non-penalty expected goals per 90, they're first. Non-penalty expected goals per shot, they're joint second. Shots per 90, they have 16.3 shots per 90, so they're third. They're currently outscoring their expected goals by 8.9, which is mad, and they're first. They complete the most passes into the box per 90. The second most, sorry. They complete the third number of crosses per 90 into the box. They complete the most carries into the box per 90. They complete the most passes per game. They have the second most progressive yards per for every game. They create the most shot. They've got the most shot creating actions per 90. So that's the two things before someone has a shot. So it might be a dribble, a pass, maybe even a foul, something like that. They have the most 35 touches per 90 in the attack and penalty box, which is the most in the league. They've got the highest aerials won, 57.1%. They've scored from the most corners and free kicks. Oh, sorry, the joint third most. They scored 9 goals. In defence, they concede the fewest shots per 90, 7.5. And basically all those ones I read out, they do the opposite. So defensively, they're actually not too bad in some aspects. However, going back to what we said about Ederson's PS, the post shots expected goals. So what that means is basically how good the shot is, how likely is that goalkeeper to save it. So it depends like where in the goal is going. So if it's going top bins, it's going to be classed as really hard to save. If it's going really fast, again, really hard to save, and so on and so forth. The XG of the shot doesn't make a difference. So it could literally be like 2 yards from the goal. If it's going like really, really slowly and they can just pick it up, it won't be classed a hard save. But Ederson's is minus 4.1, which is 15th in the league. So if we do get some shots off, and I say that really, really optimistically, if we get any shots off, maybe that is something that could be good. And yeah, they don't in terms of their expected goals per shot that they create, they're actually 9th. So it's not actually that good, which indicates to me they have a large volume of chances, but they're not necessarily the best chances that you can make. And in terms of like the actual tactics to do this, I'm going to take a leaf out of one of my favourite clubs that isn't Palace. I say that jokingly, Brentford. So when I watch Brentford play, where is it? So let me put these lot back. So who was that? That was Walker. So Brentford beat City at the Etihad this season, 2-1. No, they didn't have much of the ball. And to be fair, a lot of what they did was kind of just hoofball, the kind of thing that our fans would get upset about. But I thought the way they defended was how you should defend against Man City. And this is why I've said maybe we could play with this 5 at the back system. Because what it meant was Richards, Anderson in the middle were occupying Haaland. Because what I noticed is that City play differently to how they used to play. Like JC said, they tend to like occupy these spaces a lot. So he's way too wide. They'll come inside, so on and so forth, and then they'll be like all over the place, kind of thing like this, like the Christmas tree that JC was saying. Now, when they have the ball, where is my ball? What that meant was when Haaland makes the run here, he's got a couple players to occupy him, Gay and Anderson. So if anything happens, that's fine. And what they would do, they would shift. So if you had Grealish, say Grealish has got the ball over here and you got these guys here and stuff like that, what they would do is that they would shift over like this, so that there was cover. So, for example, if Grealish passes the ball to Gundogan, then you have 4 players around him who can try and smother him. Basically, if he plays it to Ake, well, if they had it in this position, Brentford weren't too bothered about having it here because they're not really going to do much for it. And one thing that forced them to do quite a lot was make passes like diagonally into the box. So they would have to overload the inside of the box so much that they'll just kind of fling these passes in. And well, when you have 6 players, like literally right here, that kind of counteracted them, to be honest, because Man City, to all intents and purposes, do when they actually play the ball, they play quite narrow. So if you've got 6 players right there, that's really difficult to play through. And that was something I noticed. And it wasn't just from this side, it was from the other side as well. So like sometimes they would come here. Sometimes even De Bruyne would drop deep. Maybe the right back will push out a bit, and maybe it was De Bruyne doing it. But they were trying to fling these kind of diagonal passes into the box all day long for maybe Haaland to get a little knock on and stuff like that. And the other players would try and make like runs behind the back and then try to get in at the back post, but it just wasn't working because Brentford kept so many players there. And I think that's one way to try and counteract City. Don't get me wrong, it's very negative and it's very anti what I've said about playing 5 at the back in the past. I realise that. But it did work for Brentford. And then these 3 would be used as like that pivot, would be used as that. And then the front 2 would just kind of like help out where they can. So like, for example, like JT said earlier about having the 3 City players over here, for example, well, you've got 3 players here now. And then these 2 can cover over. And what they would do as well to make sure that they don't get caught out. So let's say, sorry, let me just get rid of that. What they would do is to make sure they won't get caught out with a switch. They would make sure that these passes this way were very difficult to do. So that if City did want to play out, they would have to literally pass it back to either RHEA. But then I guess that's what Zaha would like to do, is try and cover that shadow. So then what they would have to do is then go back to the centre backs and then they'd have to start again. That's basically what it'd be. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't literally just like park the bus, because I know what this looks like, park the bus. But what they did do as well was that they had a clever press. So City will start off like this, and then Ederson's there. RHEA will be that kind of pivot. These 2 start off kind of wide-ish. And then you have Gundogan, De Bruyne, Grealish out wide, Silva out wide, and then Haaland up front. What they would do is they would actually have a 3-person press. So one of these lot will come out of midfield. One of our centre backs would need to push into the midfield. So what they would have is a 4-3-3. When City have the ball like at a goal kick. So let's just say it's like this, just to kind of show you what I mean. They'd have this, and what they would do is that their players would kind of stand to make sure that City can't really play out. They wouldn't really aggressively press them per se. They would just stand in positions that would mean that Ederson had to kick it long. And when they did that, like Ederson isn't bad with his distribution at all. But what it meant was that they kept trying to hit Haaland in that game for like it happened so many times. And what that meant, if you know that if you get into this position and therefore Haaland's the only kind of ball that they're thinking about playing, that's quite easy to deal with. Obviously, Haaland's a very good player and a bit of skill, and he's gone and they're off and stuff like that. But if you know that they're going to play that ball, one of our defenders could drop off, Hughes could drop off. It's much easier to defend. But if they did get that ball out, so let's say that, I don't know, it didn't work and Walker's got it over here, what they would then do is that they would still keep this 4-3-3 kind of press. But what they would do is they would make sure that if Walker's here, they'd at least hold him up a little bit. They wouldn't necessarily press him, like they're not going to go in and tackle him. But MacArthur's job in this position would be to give him wide. Push him out wide, but to give Richards that time to come back, so they've got that back 5 again. So as long as you're standing them up and creating time for your players to come back and set back up into this, that was fine. They weren't necessarily trying to press high per se. It wasn't particularly aggressive. Obviously, like when the ball was like over here with Ederson, yes, they did. They were a bit more aggressive, but generally speaking, they weren't like gung ho with it at all. Because I also kind of think if you're a bit too gung ho, then City are going to find you out. But that was something I thought was very interesting when I watched back when City lost to Brentford. And it wasn't that long ago. It was only in like November. So it wasn't like they were, you know, it wasn't like it was different times or anything. But yeah, that was just a little thought on what the reason why I said maybe a 5 at the back wouldn't be such a bad idea in this game. I guess the problem would be the attacking outlet.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about with what you're saying, because I remember when they played, basically what happened when they broke was their midfielder, so let's say MacArthur, would get the ball and Mbeumo would be on the move. And he's got blistering pace.
Yeah.
And that's something that Zaha doesn't have anymore.
Yeah.
So Mbeumo would absolutely leg it down wide, and one of their midfielders would come and join, which was Norgard. So I'm guessing in this, with what you've got here, will probably be Ahamada would join them. So sort of got a 3 up front.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the game plan worked for them because they had the players to suit it. They had Mbeumo, who has the speed, which unfortunately Zaha does not. They have Tony, which has the finishing, which we don't know if Edouard has because he hasn't played. And if it's Mateta, we know damn well he ain't got the finishing. And with Norgard, he just seems to be in the right place at the right time. And with Ahamada, we just don't know. He hasn't played enough games to know that yet. So it worked for them guys because we know they have the players to do it. But it's a good way of maybe trying it, but we don't know if it's going to work because we don't know if we have the players to do it.
Well, this is it. And the thing is with playing City as well, I've always said this every time we play City, you need luck against City as well. Like even when we beat them 2-0 at their place last season,
it was 2 breaks, wasn't it? It was 2 breaks.
Well, that, and also we were lucky because they had a goal disallowed, and like Jesus wasn't very far offside.
And also Laporte got sent off, didn't he?
Yeah, Laporte got sent off, which I think some refs wouldn't have sent him off per se. I mean, I think it was a sending off, but I have seen other situations where refs haven't sent off players for that. So you do need luck against City as well. Again, when we drew 0-0 at our place, I thought we was quite lucky as well. They had a lot of opportunity to score, but he didn't. But yeah, I think I agree. I think that's the thing. That's why I wasn't sure who to play like up front, because the thing is, I think you need that kind of thing. But then I think Elise would be good there. But then I think you need that striker focal point. And the thing is, I don't think like a lot of our players aren't. Now I think about it, we don't like have, like you say, they've got Mbeumo, but we don't really have like a player with absolutely mad pace. Now I think about it anymore.
No, we don't. I think the last guy we had was Van Arnold.
Yeah, I think one thing I think could be very useful is, again, say this every time, but if Anderson does get a bit of space, I think as soon as Anderson if we were to do this and Anderson does get the ball, like you were saying about exploiting the wings, I think as soon as he gets the ball, these lot just need to be going like
in different directions.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be too mad if we did that and like kind of left. Yeah, I think we need these players, and that's why I've also put Ahamada, because he looks like he is willing to do those kind of things. Like running, and like he seems to like exploiting these like wide spaces as well. So
yeah, he did that for Stuttgart, even though he was more of an 8. He did what Gallagher did, where he would be that box to box, going forwards and backwards, but he would also come out to that wide right hand side as well.
See, that's the thing. I do think Ahamada was a very good buy in that sense, because when you think about it now, okay, let's just go back to our normal formation, right? Ignore City players for now. But if we go back to our normal formation, right? When you think about it, what we've got now, and let's say we got Decore's around. So this is not specifically to this game, but like when you think about it, when you look at that, we've actually got the same team as last season. The only difference is that Ahamada is playing instead of Gallagher.
Yeah, And then probably put Sambi in for MacArthur, so you've got that Decore. I mean, not Decore, Kuyate replacement. Actually, no, keep MacArthur in. Keep MacArthur in because him and Gallagher were beasts.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, and this is why I know we're going a bit off tangent here, but like that's why it always frustrates me because we actually played a very different system last season, and played a very different system where MacArthur and Gallagher complement each other so well on each side. They would help out the wing so well, but now we don't really seem to have that. But with Ahamada, the only thing with Ahamada I'm a bit worried about. Not worried about, but like in this,
his defending is shocking.
it's like he does love a rash tackle, doesn't he? From what we saw against Villa, so that would be the only thing I would say about him playing this game. Defensively, I would worry in the sense of like that's why I wanted MacArthur there because he's got the experience. Do you know what I mean? Like he's actually beaten City in this side. Ahamad is quite young, so I feel like he could maybe do some stuff that a more experienced player wouldn't. So maybe I'll play Lukonga there instead. I don't know, but yeah, I think we got to weigh up the pros and cons at the end of the day, and we just got to try our best to not get absolutely destroyed.
Well, I was saying it to Dan earlier. I think if Haaland doesn't score a hat-trick in this game, I think we've done very well.
Here's a question I thought about earlier, and I think this would be quite a divisive question. If we were to go, say, if we did play a 4-4 whatever, and basically what I'm saying is, if we went 1-0 down within like the first 20 minutes, would you try to equalise or would you try damage limitation? Like, would you go for it for the point, or would you do that like knowing that it could end up being like 5 or 6? Possibly.
I would go for the point because if you look at our goal difference, it's actually not too bad compared to everyone else.
True.
So for example, we are -11, but if you look below us, Wolves -16, Forest -24. Everton -19, Southampton -21, Bournemouth -27. So, in reality, I think this game and the Arsenal game, I would definitely go for an equaliser because what's the worst? The worst that they could do probably is about 4-0, 4-5-0. 2 games like that leaves us at -21. That's still not the worst.
True.
And honestly, I think points come way before goal difference. And it's something that Guardiola probably wouldn't expect. Similar to how we scored our second goal against Man City at the Etihad last season. I highly doubt that Guardiola expected us to bring on Elise and who's he bring on? Elise and Hughes, I think he brought on. And Hughes was playing in a much more attacking role when he came on. I highly doubt he was expecting that, and that's exactly how we scored. They had a corner. We passed it out to Elise, and he ran John Stones all the way down to the goal, didn't they?
Yeah.
So I think that's something that Guardiola probably wouldn't expect and probably would have to think twice about how to deal with it. So, for example, if we're 1-0 down, 2-0 down, at half time, if you have Edouard and Mateta up front with Zaha and Elise all on the pitch at the same time, he's going to be sitting there looking at it going, if they have the ball, how are we going to stop this? Like it'll have to make him think about it a little more. And you know what happens when Guardiola thinks about something? He cocks it up, really, doesn't he? He's got a big history of if he overthinks something, he makes the wrong decision.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So I think giving him more decisions to make is probably the best thing for us. Definitely go, in my opinion, go for the point. What would you do?
No, I agree. I'm never really one for damage limitation, to be honest. I think if you do go for it and you're brave, I think sometimes you'll get what you deserve. Do you know what I mean?
I think one stat that I thought was very funny when reading it before So because they play an extremely high line, I thought, oh, let me just have a look, and I seen that per 90, Palace have 2.7 offsides per game.
Really?
That's a lot.
How does that compare to everyone else?
I don't know. Give me another team and I'll have a look.
Let's say
similar to us, Villa.
Say Villa, because they're slightly, well, they're a few points above us now, aren't they?
Aston Villa, offsides per game, 1.7.
Considering we never attack as well, like.
I don't know. I just thought that was really funny because we, as you said, we never attack, we never pass the ball forwards. So how the hell have we got so many offsides? And it's just laziness, you know. It's just our striker and our wingers, mainly Zaha and Mateta, when they make a run, which they rarely do in the first place, if they don't get the ball, they're not gonna run back. They walk back.
Yeah.
And then basically when they're offsides, you're a man down, aren't you? Really? Until they get back onside, and because we're a man down, we struggle. We hoof it forwards, and unfortunately, it goes to one of those guys. And guess what? They're offside. It's more of a thing that I saw and it was funny, and it's just a bit of a frustration stat that I saw.
Yeah. No, I agree. I did the thing is with us is that I don't get, and I only really noticed this after rewatching believe it or not, I did actually rewatch the Villa game and I did a thread on Twitter about the tactics. And
why would you do that to yourself?
The weird thing is that we get ourselves into some okay positions, but it's like there's space that's been created by things that we do. Like, for example, one of the stills I had on there was a picture of Zaha and Elise both making a very similar run, like trying to beat the offside trap from a ball over the top or something. But the thing is, because they're both doing that, even if one of them was doing it, that made so much space between Villa's centre backs and their centre mids, like a good couple meters worth of space. If Elise or Zaha literally dropped into that space slightly, you've then got another option you can play that into. They can either then turn and run. You've literally played a pass that has then beaten like 3 or 4 players. They can either then turn or run, or maybe lay it off to someone a bit more wide or something like that.
Yeah, it's just if a midfielder steps up, you've got another person there supporting.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just there's space on the pit. Like, it's not like there's no space and like we're getting completely closed out. There is space there, but it's like the players either just seem like too far apart from each other, or they just like, for me, a lot of it's like a lot of it is like kind of just like you said, like laziness. Like there's literally like space for them just to get closer to each other, and they don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what really baffles me. And there's no space. Sorry, there is space, but they just don't run to it. And it makes sense because remember that stat came out that apparently we've run the least in the league or something like that. Well, you know what? In the terms of attacking, that actually doesn't surprise me, because there will literally be like a space in the middle somewhere on the pitch, and there'll be one guy they'll be literally looking at the space and not like running into it. Like it just baffles me. Like, it genuinely baffles me. If it's hard to explain without pictures, but I'm going to plug myself slightly and have a look at my tweet thread online on Twitter, because it explains exactly what I mean. Like, there are things that we do that make sense, but then like we just don't exploit it, whereas other teams do that, and then that's why we don't create anything. Or we're just too slow, like we dither on the ball too much. That was another one. Like, there was a bit, so I'm ranting a little bit, but there's a little bit in the Villa game where Sambi Lokonga literally had the ball kind of like on the left hand, not right by the touchline, but on the left hand side, kind of on the border of their defensive third and like the midfield third, right? Tyreek Mitchell was literally standing there looking at him. It's like, one, why don't you make the run? Zaha was then being marked like in the middle, so he couldn't be passed to. Sheikh Doucouré was like was in a position where a pass would have actually kind of made sense to him. But Lokonga took so long to do it that Ollie Watkins then closed down that passing lane, and then we passed it back to our centre back, to Gay, and I was like, "What on earth?" Like, it's just like there's so many things that it just frustrate me, because if we just did little things a little bit better, we'd actually be an okay attacking side. It's just because when we get into that kind of like, once we get beyond the halfway line, where we don't know what to do, or like anything in the middle, we don't know what to do.
It's just panic.
Exactly. And another classic example. Sorry, I'm ranting a little bit, but the ball got passed to Anderson from Guaita, right? Okay, that's pretty normal. But then Anderson ended up just lumping it long. And I don't mean like, he did one of his like pinged long passes. He lumped it because he had no other option, because in front of him was Nathaniel Klein, who, okay, maybe you don't want him to receive the ball, but he was being marked. Doucouré was just standing in the passing lane, Doucouré was standing there, but Ollie Watkins was in the passing lane between them, so he couldn't receive the ball. But I'm thinking, why didn't he move? And then Lokonga is up by the halfway line, so I'm like, why is Lokonga so far up the pitch? If Lokonga was a bit further, at least that gives Anderson like a mid-range passing option that he could do, that we all know that he can pull off. And then there we go. We've beaten 2 or 3 players, and yeah, it's just I feel like we're nearly there, but there's just some things that really, really let us down, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, that's not it. So as you guys can see in the comments on YouTube and Facebook, I've put the Twitter thread that Dan's talking about in there, so you guys can go in there and have a look. Very good, very insightful. He's got stats, he's got lines, he's got arrows, and STATMAN Dan's got some stats in there. Well, he's got a few tables in there as well.
Polygons.
He's got some tables in there as well, I've seen. Let's look through some comments before we wrap up. Hazarat here saying Doucouré suspended. I swear if I see Luca at the start, I'm going to scream. You know what? I wouldn't mind it. You know, genuinely, I wouldn't mind just a straight swap, Luca for Doucouré in this game.
I feel like if he just sits there, he's not that bad. Do you know what I mean? It's when he's got to run about that his mobility, I think, is just not there. If he's got to sit there, I don't think he's too bad. Although they'll probably score a goal from a free kick from about 20 yards from a foul that he's given away.
Well, the other thing that I was thinking about with Luca is the guy's a proper leader, isn't he? Even though he's dreadful at football, he's a leader, and he's something that we really need on the pitch, because right now, if you look at our midfield, Doucouré, Lokonga, and Eze, Elise, there's no real leader in there, really.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
But Luca is that guy. He was that guy a few years ago. I think it's a given that he ain't that guy anymore. But I think for a game like this, you need someone to properly marshal the back line. Yeah. And he, as you said, he's okay until he's got to run about. I think he's okay until he's got to run about and until he passes. Because the second he thinks he can do a crossfield diag, then it goes downhill very quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, bless him. I think as well, I think the experience I don't think will be too bad, because he has played in teams that have beaten City and like gotten draws against them. So I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Thunder here saying there's going to be a licking on Saturday. It's not going to be a good day. Nope. Normally we are lucky against City. We have been recently, but obviously your luck's got to run out against the bigger team sooner or later. Chairman says, I bet you in your thread you haven't got an image of Eze making a run.
No, I don't actually.
I don't think
It
he made
actually
one.
No, I don't think he did.
Well, I think that's sort of the underlying thing, isn't it? In what we spoke about today in this TACT-EAGLE, we haven't mentioned his name once.
It wasn't in either of our starting lineups either.
No, and I don't think that there was even a case to even mention him today because of how bad he was at Villa and how bad he has been lately. He's just not been good enough, has he?
No, I thought the couple of times when he's come off the bench, he's looked pretty decent. But I do think part of the problem that he is being played out of position. But then a part of me also thinks maybe, and this is quite sad for me to say really, but maybe he was a player who was bought before Vieira came along, when there was a different style of play in mind.
I think that exactly. I think he was bought for Roy.
Yeah.
In the way of when we played with Roy, it was 4-5-1. We packed out that midfield, and we had Maka was playing consistently. It's sort of like a thing of with Gallagher, isn't it? But with Eze instead. Because what we always used to do was we had Van Arnold overlapping, which I think people are forgetting. And we also had Eze playing on the left wing with Zaha up front that season, with Maka on the left side of midfield. So Eze had Van Arnold overlapping to help. He had Maka coming over to the left side to help. And you also had Zaha, who's mainly a left winger, who always drawed out to the wing anyway. So you had like 4 or 5 people over on that one side helping him out, which is why he looked so good in that position before he got injured. But now Vieira doesn't play that way. He says, look, you got 1 or 2 people, you got your 3 over here, you got your 2 over here, you've got to make it work. And unfortunately, that's not how Eze works. He works off people. He's not the kind of guy to beat people, is he?
No, and that's it. I think, and also I do think, and the thing is, QPR fans said this, that if he plays on the wing, he's kind of wasted. And what do? We play him on the wing. Like, I think he's all right.
I wouldn't say he's wasted, because I think he's had his best games for us on the wing. But QPR fans have said that when he's on the wing, he is very hot and cold. You can play a whole game and you won't even know he's there. Or you could play a whole game and he's absolutely torn it to shreds.
Yeah.
But
I think I think that's the problem with that left hand. Like, I don't think Eze would be too bad on that left hand side if that meant that Tyrone Mitchell was literally bombing it every single time.
Yeah.
And whoever the midfielder is on that side also helps out. I think that's fine, because then Eze gets to come inside and is kind of like a free-ish kind of role. But I mean, you know, that's easier said than done. And maybe we should be the manager, JC. Maybe we should be the managers.
Mate, definitely. I'll be the manager. You be like the tactics dummy. But last 2, praying we don't get smashed here. And to be honest, conceding goals isn't our biggest problem.
No, defensively we've been all right actually.
Scoring goals is the issue, and it always has been for Palace, really.
Yeah, like I think in terms of the XG conceded, like we're only 12th, which considering the teams we played, I don't think it's too bad.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, I think that's it for today. The City match preview is tomorrow at 7:30 as well, I believe. Check it out. Also, definitely go and check out Dan's Twitter thread. I'll put that in the comments again now for you guys. And yeah, meet us after the game for some more fan cams, because we're going to be very happy with our win that we're going to get.
Yeah.
Score prediction, Dan. I'm gonna go 3-1 City. I think we're gonna score.
I don't think they're gonna smash. I don't think they're gonna score loads of goals. I reckon it'll be 2-0. I don't think after analysing the Villa game, I just don't think we'll score.
All right. This was the TACT-EAGLE against Manchester City. This is me over there. That's Statman, Bossman. This was TACT-EAGLE. We are out. Up the Palace.
Eagles!